What's going on, guys? Welcome back to TotalTank. Today we're going to be taking on the Eye of Azshara instance with a Demon Hunter tank. So it's not going to be so much as a Demon Hunter review, it's more of an instance review, how I tank the bosses, how the bosses are best to be tanked in my opinion. And to be honest, I chose Demon Hunter to do this instance because Demon Hunter seems like the perfect class for it because there's so many avoidable abilities that you run into on the floor. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it and that you can learn from it. And without further ado, here is the Eye of Azshara, and I'll see you in there. Okay, so the first boss is Warlord Pardesh, I think he's called, and there's no real tactic to him whatsoever, to be honest. Like, I didn't find him the least bit worrying. I don't know if it's undertuned or not, but he does summon these ads and they do get a little bit irritating from time to time because sometimes they come from where you're not looking, so you've just got to keep on the lookout constantly with this one. So I tend to just tank him in the middle so I can have a decent view of the whole room or the whole boss vicinity. He'll summon two kinds of ads. One of them's a melee and one of them's a caster. The caster's the one you need to look out for because they tend to target the healer, so you need to interrupt them as soon as possible and get them into your vicinity so you can cleave them down. But yeah, apart from that, this boss doesn't really have that many mechanics, and I hope he does receive somewhat of a tune-up because he wasn't overly difficult, but then again it is one of the first instances in the whole of the expansion. But then again, going from level 1 to 100, you should learn a basic grasp of mechanics and stuff like that. So yeah, summary of that boss, just make sure you grab the ads and interrupt them if you can. Now we move on to Lady Hatecoil, and I'm sorry about that because the guy in this instance actually pulled before I could actually do anything about it and start recording. But the main tactics with this encounter is when she casts Static Nova, you need to get onto the sandy areas, because if you are in there, from previous experience, you can be one shot in that little vicinity. So as long as you stood on the sand, you should be fine, even though she does knock you off. And she does actually have an ability as well, can't remember for the life of me the name of it, sorry, professional guides and all that, but where the water rises and it takes over the sand, which means you've got to keep a lookout for if the water, like, you'll see some of the things disappear, the sand disappears and you have to go and stand on another platform because otherwise you will get one shot by the other ability. She does also summon ads with it might be the static ability, I'm not too sure, but yeah, as you see with the Demon Hunter, you can always, there you got Beck and Storm, that's what caused them as to spawn, I believe. But with the Demon Hunter in this instance, you can actually transport a lot easier and maneuver a lot easier onto platforms and over abilities that would necessarily kill you. Say if you're stood in that electric while she's casting that, you can actually jump and avoid it, but you need to be on these platforms ideally, so always tap the boss on one of them platforms to avoid anybody dying and to avoid yourself taking unnecessary damage and causing the healer some hassle. So now we're moving on to Serpent Rick, which before this fight you actually have to clear all the ads out of this area because otherwise it can be quite a bit of a ball ache. Main abilities with this boss are he sprays toxins, so that ability you saw there, spray acid. What happens with that is some of it can leave a pool of acid on the floor which deals ticking damage, and then the ability you saw then was Submerge, and which is where he changes position. But on this, the DPS need to split apart from the tank whilst the tank takes the boss, and all you need to do is basically take the boss and make sure his aggro's on you, but the DPS needs to go nuke down two ads that do explosive damage, and as the boss submerges twice in this encounter, it can summon 4 of those ads, which means it can get really messy really quickly for the healer and the DPS and everybody involved. So it's ideal that you target one ad at a time, take them out as quick as possible and make the fight as efficient and as clean as you can. Other than that, this boss really has no mechanics. He's got a spray ability which doesn't do naff all, but when he does this is what I mean. If you had 4 of those adds up at this time. Whilst he was doing this, it'd cause a lot of trouble for the healer, because a lot of people actually have to avoid this ability at once, and not everybody does it, because not everybody is in the playstyle of being mobile all the time, whereas I like to be sometimes, especially in fights like this, and especially the Demon Hunter, which is why I think I'll enjoy them, because the mobility on a Demon Hunter is unreal. So yeah, as for Serpent Rick's, not really that hard of a fight. Just make sure you avoid the pools, make sure you avoid the actual initial impact, and make sure you DPS are taking out the adds quick enough, because otherwise this fight can get really messy really quickly. So now we'll move on to King Deepbeard, who is just an absolute cluster F of abilities that can seriously make this fight go wrong if you're caught in them. One there, he does a slam, which easily enough you just avoid, you get out of it. With a Demon Hunter it's so much easier, but with other classes you might actually have to manoeuvre instead of jump, or Demon Hunter leap away. Also, this ability here is the real cluster F, because honestly it does get over the top to dodge here and there, but with the Demon Hunter you can basically just jump over it. But with other tanks I can see how it's going to be so difficult, especially I imagine on the harder modes it'll do more damage, because it already does quite a lot of damage on normal as it is. So what you want to do is you just want to keep an eye on the ground mostly, because most of these effects are very visible and you just want to avoid them as much as possible. I think I actually do take some damage from this in a second, which you can see I take quite a bit of damage from it, and just standing on it for such a short amount of time. And so many tanks I've seen actually die from that is actually ridiculous. So just remember to stay mobile in this fight and keep on your feet and keep your eye on the ground. Watch out for the boss's abilities, because otherwise it can get really messy again really quickly if you're caught in the slam and then you're caught in some of them, because it can deal a lot of damage and possibly kill you. So make sure if you are caught in them or you can't get out that you use mitigation. And having beaten that boss, that'll take you on the final boss of this instance, which is the Eye of Azshara, which is just on the screen now. With this encounter, it's not too difficult. He's got a couple of abilities that can potentially harm your chances of surviving. Mainly it's a DPS encounter, like you get that big corn area there, you jump out of that, you realise that can deal quite serious damage. Other than that, he only spawns really some vortexes and some waves, which is just common sense to WoW really. If you've played WoW for a long time, you avoid them at all costs. You just stay out of the way of them, avoid the damage, and if the boss is on the off chance dealing a lot of damage to you, just make sure you've got your mitigation available and save it for certain times when you could need it. Say as another tank you might notice that big frontal corn a bit late, you keep your mitigation for that kind of thing. But all in all, these fights are not too challenging to tank. I've done it with relative ease. Might just be tanking experience, I might just have the common sense and the mindset of an actual tank. But other than that, seriously, it's not too difficult. I can't imagine what it's going to be like on the mythics yet, as I haven't done them, I'm not of level yet. But other than that, a Demon Hunter is absolutely perfect for this instance, because a lot of abilities you can just completely cheese by using the Demon Hunter's mobility. So utilise that where you can as a strength in this, especially if you're a Demon Hunter or any other kind of class like a Druid that can use Stampede in Raw or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much been the guide for Eye of Azshara's tanking methods, guys. So leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed it, and possibly subscribe, it'll really help me out, and I hope I helped you out as well. So tomorrow's video will probably be Violet Hold with a warrior point of view. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Bye.